and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au, and I have with me the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya.
Chris, thank you. Welcome everyone to our program. I really love that opening, and
Gets you dancing.
Gets you dancing, right? And I'm so pleased to be here. This is a wonderful program to be co-hosting with you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, everybody, for what we are on part 5 of the documentary on Beethoven's Symphony No. 1, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls. And this is also produced by Architects of Music.
This collaboration has been going on for a long time, fueled by our passion for connecting musicians and audiences from entire globe.
Next, in the number 3 spot, as we know, is the minuet movement. But already in his first symphony, Beethoven does something way outside the box. It's as if he says, this minuet thing is getting pretty old. It is, after all, a new century. So he labels the third movement as a minuet, but he actually writes what has to be regarded as the first ever symphonic scherzo, a relatively new genre largely pioneered by, guess who? Haydn, which Beethoven had also been using in his piano sonatas and chamber music. Scherzo is the Italian word for joke, and it's usually light and playful music, often dance-like, since it will now take the place of the minuet as something of a time-out in the symphonic plan. The scherzo is often designed like a minuet with a central contrasting trio section, but the character is definitely less formal and less old world than the minuet. Actually, in his piano sonata, Opus 31, No. 3, Beethoven would include both a scherzo and a minuet. So Beethoven's third movement, which he calls a minuet, is a whirlwind of motion and excitement, and it's built on a rising scale. And it begins in C major, but immediately within 4 very quick measures, it moves into the dominant key of G major, like so. And it's much faster than that, as you will hear. And in the next 4 measures, it climbs even higher and reasserts G major. So here it is now, the opening of this most unusual New Age minuet. And what in the world just happened there? You hear this abrupt change from C major to G major in the opening. Okay, but after that, the lightning-fast harmonic shifts, and the misplaced rhythms, and that sudden burst of volume, they destabilize the music, the harmony, the rhythm, the dynamics. So let's slow it down a bit and just examine what the man is doing here. Beethoven starts this second section in the dominant key of G major, here, yes? And he uses this chromatic note just a half step above G, A flat, which has something of a wailing effect, and it moves us into this, which repeats. But notice the agitated rhythm here. Then he compresses the phrase, and he magically ends up in a totally new key. Been thrust now into the key of D flat major, which on the keyboard is only a half step above C major, the shortest distance you can move physically on the keyboard. Even though, but D flat is about as far away as you could get from C in the traditional ways of moving from one key to another in music, or modulating as we call it. But there's nothing traditional going on here, and Beethoven is able to sequentially, by repeating and rather mysteriously, take us from D flat major, as you will hear, and it's very graceful at this moment. I'll play it slowly. And amazingly back into C major, and a rather thunderous recap of the opening, complete with its rising scale theme. So let's now back up. I want you to hear all of this. We're in D flat major. And here goes. And what was that about? This thing. Did you catch that? It's like this wailing chromatic thing we heard a while back. Beethoven now uses this bizarre harmonic device that we refer to as a Neapolitan chord. Don't ask me why. But you take the basic major triad, C, you move it up a half step, again, D flat. So you have, and then it resolves like so. So together you have. Then he follows it with a standard non-Neapolitan progression. And he quickly alternates them. Then he really throws us a curve by accenting the second note on each measure. But at Beethoven's rapid tempo, it is so disorienting. But now we get back to C major for our closing of this section, but the rhythm of the melody does this. It's missing the strong beat on every downbeat in every measure. The accompaniment is there. The accompaniment is very regular. 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Put them together, the melody is doing this. It's just, I can barely keep up with this. And it's amazing, all these jarring, irregular elements. Melody, harmony, rhythm, the breakneck speed at which they all happen. They're disruptive, they're disorienting, almost chaotic.
Wow. So I have many questions, and for you especially. So we talked about what was essential to Beethoven, right? And I think this movement just slapped us right in the face with it. It's just... Yeah, I mean, if we were doubting before in the second movement, oh, this is kind of like a little nod to Haydn, no longer, right? This is just clearly a Beethoven thing with the Neapolitan chord, that wailing chromatic theme, the fact that this is just, he displaces the rhythms, the beats, the sforzandi. It's amazing. My question for you is, how do you teach your students to play this kind of music? Like, what is it that gives it its character, but also how do you teach it so they understand this sort of jostling, this sort of mini bar fight that happens?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, students need to be technically prepared. You know, just a little comment from Larry, who is a fabulous pianist himself, saying, well, I'm barely keeping up with it. This is technically challenging.
Yes.
It's rhythmically disruptive and disorienting. So here's Beethoven, disruptor, disorienter, but you got to keep it under control, right?
Right.
So yeah, Beethoven in some ways is extremely technically demanding composer.
Yeah.
So let's just assume students are ready to execute. It's not so much about some kind of general readiness as a personality or all this big stuff. It's very much in the fingers and in the coordination and being able to really execute this. Now, let's say students develop enough tools and techniques in their fingers and in their technique to do that. Now the character becomes the thing in there. And I usually start, and I myself feel that very strongly with Beethoven, in movements like this, and there's many movements in his sonatas like this, where he's turning something normal, like a minuet, into basically on its own head, into a real scherzo. Scherzo is a joke, translates as a joke, but he takes it as a opportunity to put things even grotesque in there. So,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a keyword for my students, and I usually ask parents to don't participate in this part of the lesson, okay? Because it's going to be something outside the box. We're dealing with a composer who's outside the box, right? So I tell my students, well, do you have a little bit of a hooligan in you? And the students go like, oh, no, my mom is sitting here. Are you kidding? Then I say, well, your mom is sitting there, but I'm going to tell you, confess, I have a little bit of a hooligan in me. And how about we channel that hooligan instead of getting on mom's nerves and on sister's toes into this fabulous music, because it's written by someone who enjoys being a little hooligan without harming anyone.
I see.
So that's where we start. And then we look for all these elements which make that music tick.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think what it is also in terms of the rhythm is you want to obviously you need to master it and find ways to master the coordination. A lot of it, what was difficult about it is the coordination of the accents and the dynamics, and not rushing the preparation for these accents, not kind of like forgetting to do it and then doing it last minute, so then you jolt the way you feel it. And last of all, I think what's really fun is once you get the coordination right, once you get the dynamics, once you've memorized it probably, it's really fun. It's about having fun with it. And the great orchestras, you the great orchestras, whether it is, that infamous video of Leonard Bernstein conducting, that encore of a Haydn symphony just with his no hands, just with his facial expressions. That sort of fun, that sort of changes in character, that's the next, level.
Absolutely. That's the fun of it. And you're so right about planning to have fun with it so that you can actually have fun with it. And that goes back to Beethoven. He plans the effect. And obviously he has great fun working, with his toys, which is accents and rhythms and this and that, and putting, I can almost envision him working around the symphony and going, oh, I'm going to just put the syncopated.
Yeah, what about with that right there and
right
just place the rhythm there? Neapolitan, no Neapolitan. Now, how does that work?
That's right.
Yeah.
So you got to, like you said, you got to get over the hump of being able to execute it where it doesn't become, a perpetual struggle with coordination.
Yeah.
And when you do, it's almost like flipping that switch and igniting the fire of joy and fun of that process. It's very game-like. And I think if Beethoven was living today, he probably would have been very sought after game composer.
Yes. It would make it so good. You'd make it so you're so concentrated on the music itself, you forget that you're playing a game. It's that sort of composer. Well, I think sometimes it happens with these movies where you're so absorbed that the music makes it so much more absorbing and haunting, perhaps. And I also like to think that plays such a big role in our emotional state. But yeah, I just want to start with saying that, anything that you thought, oh, maybe that's a bit of a hint to Haydn, or that's not really fully Beethoven, that's completely changed when you get to the third movement. It's this immediate change that happens. When you hear this, I see it's so easy to start dancing to it. I can imagine what the first people who heard this would have felt.
That's right. Well, he labeled it minuet. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
you
true.
can dance. You can jump to it, but I don't
Yeah.
think you can really dance the
No,
minuet.
no.
But the dancey element is at the core of it, definitely. And Beethoven's sense of dance is much broader than some kind of prescribed dance movements. And I found that he tackled a lot with what I would call wild dance. Like if you go to the high school dance party, a couple of hours after it started,
Oh, I
it's
see.
it's that kind of a dance where everyone got their heart pumping already quite a bit,
They're warmed
and
up. They're warmed up.
warmed
They're past
up.
the awkward stage.
They pass the awkward stage, and then you walk right into that, and you feel like, oh, I'm allowed to just stomp and wiggle whatever way I
Do
want
whatever I
to
want.
the music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that sense of freedom, and on the border of wild, but with Beethoven, it becomes really organized wilderness, organized freedom. That's what makes the freedom, and that what makes his music, at least to me, feel like manifestation of freedom, manifestation of free will. And it's interesting how it's so really well constructed and so well planned, as we can see
Yeah.
through Lawrence Rapchak's
Have you?
lectures. Yet it
Yeah.
exudes that sense of energy being let loose.
I have a question to related to performance in terms of freedom. Have you ever struggled with being free at the instrument, and not just free in terms of the timing and the amount of dynamics, or how much you wait before playing, but just feeling like you can do whatever you want at the instrument in a way. And have you struggled with that, or do you have ways to approach that sort of freedom so you know that when you get to a performance, it feels that you are free, that you can do whatever you want, and it's not a struggle to get through a piece?
Well, any challenging piece is a struggle to get through. It's just by
Yeah.
definition because it's a challenging
Yeah.
piece, and it's always a goal. I can't really say that it ever was a struggle. For me, well, I have certain physical limitations because I'm not a very big, tall guy with huge hands. But pl- you know, playing the piece was always very interesting exploration project for me. Finding the technique which suits my hands, suits my abilities,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so forth. And I enjoy that. I enjoy finding tricks to make things work. So maybe that's what makes it less of a struggle as opposed to a journey for me. Yeah, and I know what you mean. You come on stage and you want to be fully immersed in actually doing the music as opposed to being worried about forgetting something in there.
Well,
That
it's
kind of
also
thing.
the idea that a lot of musicians, like all of audience members, will come after you and say, "Oh, you look like you're having so much fun on stage," or "You're just having a great time." And sometimes that's true, but a lot of time it's not the case. We try to. So what is it that sort of allows, especially maybe when you're playing with an ensemble? I think part of what makes chamber music really fun is that you're dancing literally on stage with somebody else, and maybe the part sometimes is not quite as difficult, and so you actually do get to have some fun with it, with the timing, with all that. But then it's that idea: how can you be free as a musician? How can you embrace that whilst performing and whilst doing something so challenging?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And of course, playing chamber music is one of my absolutely favorite things to do.
Yeah,
Yet, in some ways, it's more limiting. So I really like to be a soloist as well, very much, because as
yeah,
a
yeah.
soloist, I don't need to get approved by my partners for doing what I want to do.
Right.
And even on stage, working, playing with partners is a great collaboration and
Uh-huh,
interaction,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
but you're not fully in control of the whole ensemble. So the interactive part it's give and take. Interactive part of it is extremely enjoyable. yet curbing your own appetites for certain things in favor of collaboration is a downside of it. Yeah, what I do is, to me, the freedom on stage for me truly fully depend on the quality of my preparation. If my preparation is done the way I want it to do, stretched over time the way I wanted it to be stretched, and all of that, and I was preparing properly for everything, then I don't have. So I can't share how to overcome it, but I know the problem exists. Like coming on stage and suddenly finding yourself, like not in the place where you prepared to be. I usually find myself in a stage exactly where I prepared to be. If I was a little bit underprepared, that's how I feel. If I was a lot unprepared, that's how I feel. If I was prepared close to how I wanted to be, then I feel close to completely in control. So for me, that's my feeling on stage really very accurately reflects the level of preparation. And most of the time, when I was a young student and, under auspices of my great teachers, one of my professors in Moscow used to say, before walking on stage, make sure you turn on that switch. And that was like a code word, switch. And that switch was just getting on the next level of dedication and excitement. It's like a next level of intensity. And for me, that just puts fuel to the stage performance and makes it that much more enjoyable and that much more effective and that much more in control. It's like
you're listening harder. You're playing more intimate. Like your whole body is more engaged.
Everything is just fueled with the next octane of gasoline.
You're fueled with the best quality fuel as opposed to just 95 or 90%. You're just like,
turbocharger.
Okay.
It's that thing.
Yeah.
And also it's also that it also has that effect where you put additional trust in yourself, in your preparation. Some difficult passages, the best way to play them is to take a risk, to relax your hands as opposed to really be in control of it. So sometimes the best control comes out of letting go of control, but that's a risky feeling. But it's
not full relaxation. It's something mental where you're able to let go, but you're not just. It's not sloppy. It's not something where you just. It's still there is still control there, but it is within the realms of.
I call it trust. I think it's a level of trust. Okay, I've learned this passage. I'm just going to let it go. So
the reason we mentioned this, for our audience is that because Beethoven itself is such a difficult composer to execute. The reason most pianists struggle and continue to wrestle with these pieces because it's just so many challenges, whether it's musical, whether it is technical, whether it is somehow structural to perform a piece with a structure in mind, whether it's timing and tempi and the bigger pulse, whether it is, there's so many different things and there's so many different challenges within each sonata. It's not like once you've mastered maybe 4 sonatas, then you can play the rest easily. No. It's every 32 of them is difficult and challenging in its own way, in its own very special way, and it's a lifelong journey. And so we mentioned this because it's so much fun to be able to play these sonatas or pieces of music freely and to be able to express, but it comes with a big sacrifice, which is practice.
practice. Yeah, and as I was listening to this movement, maybe you had the same. I was almost feeling it in my hands to play all those syncopations, and I was too. I was
thinking this is a really piece that I've played before. Yeah, exactly. And we've done that stuff before on the piano, so we realize it's recognizable. It's
recognizable as a tough spot on the score, which wreaks havoc.
So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's have to keep. Well, with that, I want to just like amazingly thank the team for all the hard work they do to make this all possible. Our collaborators, everyone in our team is so dedicated to producing shows, editing, making a storyboard, making it visually appealing, and it's just fascinating with all the amazing things that they do. New media productions, virtual concert halls, architects of music, and of course, the incredible Larry Rapchak.
Yes, and if you liked any part of this show, check out other shows which we do, and we have a daily series of music and musicians around the globe where we
Yes.
host music and musicians from different parts of the world, and not only from different parts of the industry: educators, presenters, managers, publishers, orchestra conductors, you name it. And we invite those people to share their insights into art and a career, which is hopefully, and I'm pretty sure of that, very helpful to musicians, and might be very curious topics for people from other fields. And we have many events going on in the short week and a half. We will be in Cairo and presenting call orchestral concerts with the Cairo Opera Orchestra, and just a week after that we'll be in Zlin presenting concerts and making recordings with Bohuslav Martinu Philharmonic Orchestra, and we have right after that we have auditions for next season and the season after, so don't miss the deadline for those auditions for the Carnegie performances as soloists with orchestras and as composers. You can submit the scores. We are already auditioning not only for 24-25 but also for 25-26 season, and next season we'll have
amazing.
a 7-concert season at the Carnegie, and many more events. There's a lot of variety. Take some time to explore, because I'm pretty confident no matter where you are in the stage of development of your career and art, you will find something which will suit your next goals. And of course, get in touch with us. We're always looking for more people, for more collaborations, and we
Absolutely.
would love to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, with that, we'll see you for next time, in which we'll explore part 6 of our Beethoven 1 documentary series. Until then, take care.
Bye.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Expressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.